What's going on, guys? My name is Alejandrino, and today, for my critical analysis presentation, I'm going to be talking about Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai. Now, you're probably wondering, what is Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai? Well, let me tell you, it is an anime, and if you search it up, you might find pictures of a girl in a bunny costume, or a guy who has brown hair, or both of them in the same picture. Well, let me tell you, the title and the pictures don't really have a lot to do with the actual anime itself. Well, it's probably relevant to the first 3 episodes or so. What you think is your regular high school anime with a love story, it's actually quite close to what you probably see in high school today, or what you've experienced in high school today. The common things that high schoolers go through, such as puberty, growing up, even finding who they want to be and who they are. This anime really portrays that very well, and they do that through a phenomenon they call the adolescent syndrome. Which brings me to my thesis. These real-world phases teenagers go through can be seen through these characters' adolescent syndromes: Mai Sakurajima, Ryo Futaba, and Norika Toyohama. Mai Sakurajima, the main female protagonist in this anime, was already a celebrity at a young age because her mother ran a photography agency. While she loved being on the job of being a model, she took a hiatus when she went to high school because she didn't like the pressure that it brought when she went into public, nor did she like the stress that it brought later in her career. This is how her form of adolescent syndrome started. People started not to notice or even remember who she was as time went on. Sakta, the main male protagonist, consoles his friend Futaba about the situation, since for some reason the only one who sees her. Futaba then brings up Schrodinger's cat, which is a paradox where a cat is enclosed in a box and is put in with some kind of radioactive source, and it'll eventually start emitting radiation, which results in the cat being considered dead and alive at the same time. Yet neither is really confirmed until the box is open. In terms of Mai's case, when she goes on hiatus, no one would know whether she existed or not until someone checked. Mai even asked herself, before she took a break, what if people did not know who I was? How would life really be like? Thoughts like these can happen within the mind of a teenager towards some kind of pressure and or stress, whether that be because of keeping up with a task, a family conflict, or even some kind of event that happens within the world. Not necessarily saying that only teens go through these types of thoughts, but as they also make that transition towards adulthood, it's a tough toll to take. Just as Schrodinger's cat, people might not know what's going on in a teen's head unless they check on them and ask on how they are. Mai's adolescent syndrome was soon solved by Futaba, as she explains all she needs is to have someone check up on her or open the box. With this approach, Sakta decides to scream his love for Mai in front of the whole school, leading to the school noticing her, and eventually the whole world. Though Mai was not the only person people started to notice around the school. Despite being the one that solved Mai's adolescent syndrome, Ryo Futaba didn't really think that it was still a real thing. Not until she stumbled upon a clone of herself. See, her body started to change earlier than her peers, which led to the guys at the school giving her ogling looks. Rio caught her own adolescent syndrome when she started to feel self-conscious about her appearance, thinking that she has a truly filthy body. She was split into two people with different personalities, as you can see, one with glasses and one without. See, one was not confident in her self-image, while the other was so confident in her self-image that she started posting suggestive pictures of herself. With changes teenagers go through with their bodies, they tend to feel self-conscious that everyone has their eyes on them. Studies show that when people are being watched or when they have eyes on them, people start to feel self-conscious or might even respond in an emotional way. A lot of growing teens go through this process, and some might not even accept the fact that it's happening or the fact that it already has happened. Whether they like the attention to their bodies or not, teens tend to pay more attention to the changes their bodies go through. This was shown through the two Rios, as one did not like how she looked while the other one was trying to show it off. As her body changes and everyone starts to notice these changes, she starts to feel embarrassed, as if they were only looking at her just for her appearance. It takes time for an individual to accept their body for what it is and what it has grown to, whether that be to accept it and move on, or to accept that the fact that it's happened and try their best to work on it and improve on their current state. With the help of Sakta, she accepts the fact that her body is her body. The shy Rio confronted the more outgoing one, which led to their bodies becoming one again. Being able to accept her body, Rio was not the only one who had problems accepting who they were. Norika Toyohama was introduced as the outshined younger half-sister of Mai. As a kid, she looked up to her idol sister and hoped that they would eventually meet, though their mother started to compare both of their lives as time went on. Norika became part of a singing group called Sweet Bullet, while her sister was already a successful actor and model. This causes Norika to feel angry and jealous of Mai, as it feels as Mai is setting the bar for her and she's continuously trying to chase it. This causes an adolescent syndrome that affects both Norika and Mai. Basically, they just switch bodies. But after they switch, they decide to continue their life as one another, meaning that they would follow the other schedules and activities. Even in the switched bodies, Mai continues to excel in Nodaka's performances, receiving praise from their mother, which only grew the hatred Nodaka had for her sister. Not even just as teenagers, but many siblings have their own rivalries with one another. Like Mai and Nodaka, these rivalries can be because of the lack of attention for another child, comparison of one another, or even competition of defining who they are as a person. Sometimes to solve or even reach a compromise between these sibling rivalries, all it takes is to confront the problem and talk it out with one another. Even with that said, these rivalries have their own ways of going about it, and do affect each sibling differently, which can be shown through Nodaka as she tries to attempt to drown herself. But before Nodaka has a chance, Sakta tells her that he does have proof that Mai actually does care about her, and that her sister is not intentionally trying to make her life even harder for her. After seeing that Mai has kept all of the letters that Nodaka has written to Mai when she was a kid, she was still not convinced that she was a nuisance to her sister. Not until her sister showed up. Nodaka expressed how much she disliked her sister for being so perfect and how she could not keep up with her. Though that changed when Mai started to explain that her mother explained to her that she was really worried about how Nodaka was really happy with where she was and what she was trying to do, without reaching certain expectations. Nodaka soon realized that she can continue being herself while still looking up to her sister. And she can also do what makes her happy without any worries. And she can just keep going on from there. By making those realizations and understanding one another, they switch back into their original bodies. All in all, Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai did a great job with interpreting common problems teenagers go through. Mai, Rio, and Nodaka well represented some of those challenges, but all the characters within the anime show some sort of relation to how it is to deal with adolescence. Watching everything happen might seem a bit confusing at first. If you look into all the problems, it really makes a connection to how teenagers are, just in an abnormal way. Thank you for listening to my presentation. This last slide is just my works cited, and I hope you had a wonderful time listening to me.